Did you know for the Blues Brothers, John Belushi disappeared while filming one of the night scenes? Dan Aykroyd looked around and saw a single house with its lights on. He went to the house and was prepared to identify himself, the movie, and that they were looking for Belushi. Before he could, the homeowner looked at him, smiled, and said, "You're here for John Belushi, aren't you?" The homeowner told them Belushi had entered their house, asked if he could have a glass of milk and a sandwich, and then crashed on their couch. Situations like that prompted Aykroyd to affectionately dub Belushi America's Guest. 2. Carrie Fisher became engaged to Dan Aykroyd during this shoot shortly after he saved her from choking by applying the Heimlich maneuver. 3. During filming, James Brown got separated from the vehicle caravan and drove the Bluesmobile 100 miles west on Interstate 80 to Spring Valley, Illinois. When he stopped at a gas station for directions, he was arrested by local police for no registration, the plate was a prop, and no valid driver's license. The set director was more concerned with the return of the vehicle than with the return of his actor. Did you know for Blazing Saddles, when the film was first screened for Warner Brothers executives, almost none of them laughed, and the movie looked to be a disaster that the studio would not release? However, Mel Brooks quickly set up a subsequent screening for the studio's employees. When these regular folks laughed uproariously throughout the movie, Warner Brothers finally agreed to take a chance on releasing it. 2. Mel Brooks never told Frankie Lane that the theme song Blazing Saddles was for a comedy. Lane thought it was a dramatic western. Brooks was worried that Lane wouldn't sing it with conviction if he knew the truth. 3. Gene Wilder and Cleavon Little quickly became friends on set. Since Little was a Broadway actor, Wilder would give him pointers for acting in front of the cameras. 4. Hedy Lamarr sued Mel Brooks over the use of the name Hedley Lamarr and settled out of court. Brooks said he was flattered by this attention. The reference to suing Hedy Lamarr was from Harvey Korman's first day on the set and, ironically, made a comedic reference to what was at that point a non-existent lawsuit. Did you know for Boogie Nights, after seeing a rough cut of the film, Burt Reynolds regretted making it. He fired his agent for recommending the role to him and did not participate in promotional interviews. Reynolds ended up winning a Golden Globe for the role and being nominated for an Academy Award for his performance. Despite being a front-runner for the latter, it was widely rumored that he did not win because he had distanced himself from the movie earlier. 2. Leonardo DiCaprio was originally offered the role of Dirk Diggler. He liked the screenplay, but turned it down because he had already signed on to do Titanic. DiCaprio suggested Mark Wahlberg for the role. 3. Mark Wahlberg originally didn't want to do the film after the high-profile failure of Showgirls. He changed his mind after reading the script. 4. According to William H. Macy, his agent discouraged him from reading the script. Macy read the script, loved it, and signed on to do the film. 5. Gwyneth Paltrow was originally offered the role of Roller Girl, but turned it down. 6. 40 seconds of film were cut to reduce the original NC-17 rating to an R. Did you know for Office Space, the PC load letter scene was not scripted? David Herman had more lines to say to Ron Livingston, but he was interrupted by the printer jamming and didn't understand what the error message meant. 2. Milton was actually based on a former co-worker that Mike Judge had worked with during his days as an engineer. One day, Judge went to the co-worker and asked him how he was doing. The co-worker began talking about how he was going to quit his job because he had been forced to move his desk around too many times. 3. One of the promotions for this film invited people in certain cities to watch and participate in the bashing of office equipment. There was also an internet campaign that linked to a website where people could expose their bad bosses. 4. A scene was cut from the film, which showed Lumbergh reacting angrily to his Porsche getting towed. Gary Cole said he was glad the scene was taken out, because he felt the Lumbergh character needed to remain at the same emotional state at all times. 5. Jennifer Aniston's character is named Joanna, which is Aniston's own middle name. Did you know for the Birdcage, Robin Williams was originally cast as Albert, but he wanted a change from flamboyant characters. Also, with his character dressing in drag, the film would have basically been a repeat of Williams' earlier film Mrs. Doubtfire. Thus, he asked to be cast as Armand after Steve Martin, who was originally cast as Armand, dropped out. Mike Nichols agreed and recast him. 2. Mike Nichols required that Nathan Lane and Robin Williams filmed at least one good take of each scene sticking to the script before he would allow them to improvise, something both of the actors are known for. 3. Robin Williams' slip and fall during the shrimp scene was not planned. Williams really fell, and he, Hank Azaria, and Dan Futterman are holding back laughter. Williams can even be heard holding back laughter, telling everyone to go out of the kitchen. 4. Director Paul Thomas Anderson has said that this movie is one of 2 films that without fail or question will make me stop dead in my tracks and watch all the way to the very end, no matter what else is happening or needs to get done. The other film is Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Did you know for the Bourne Identity, the name Bourne came from Ansel Bourne, a preacher in Rhode Island, the first documented case of dissociative fugue, a condition not unlike dissociative amnesia or dissociative identity disorder, multiple personality disorder. One day, in 1887, he forgot who he was, started a new life in Pennsylvania under the name Brown, and opened a convenience store. About 3 months later, he woke up and not only remembered his life as Bourne, but forgot all of his life as Brown, and was quite confused as to why he was in Pennsylvania. 2. Matt Damon climbed down the last 30 feet of the building himself, without a stunt double. He called it the most grueling thing I had to do. 3. The red bag that Bourne uses in the consulate is now owned by Adam Savage of Mythbusters and contains all the props that Jason pours onto the desk in his house in Paris. 4. Matt Damon trained in the Filipino martial art Kali for the movie. Kali involves using the aggressor's energy against him and conserving your own energy. 5. Brad Pitt was offered the role of Jason Bourne, but turned it down to do Spy Game. Did you know for Dirty Dancing, the very famous scene where Johnny and Baby are practicing their dancing and they are crawling towards each other on the floor wasn't intended to be part of the film. They were just messing around and were warming up to do the real scene. But director Emile Ardolino liked it so much he kept it in the film. 2. Patrick Swayze had to convince Jennifer Grey to be in this film because she disliked him so much while filming Red Dawn. 3. Relations between the 2 main stars varied throughout production. They had already had trouble getting along in their previous project and worked things out enough to have an extremely positive screen test. Still, that initial cooperation soon faded, and they were quickly facing off before every scene. There was concern among the production staff that the animosity between the 2 stars would endanger the filming of the love scenes. To address this, Eleanor Bergstein and Emile Ardolino forced the stars to re-watch their initial screen tests, the ones with the breathtaking chemistry. This had the desired effect, and Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey were able to return to the film with renewed energy and enthusiasm. Did you know for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Shailene Woodley was cast as Mary Jane Watson and even filmed scenes, but her role was cut from the film because the filmmakers felt there were too many characters and wanted to streamline the series. 2. The final battle between the Green Goblin and Spider-Man was filmed in an actual clock tower where temperatures would reach 115 degrees. Dane DeHaan had to wear prosthetics and makeup requiring 3.5 hours of application, as well as his goblin costume, which weighed 50 pounds and couldn't be opened without power tools. After DeHaan lost 7 pounds in a single day, the film's medic was so concerned that DeHaan would get heat stroke that crew members were told to pour buckets of ice on DeHaan's head and down his suit between takes. Unfortunately, this didn't work because his body temperature was so high that the ice would melt and turn into steam before he could feel the cooling effects. Eventually, a tubing system that would pump cold water was installed in the goblin suit so that the cooler temperatures could reach DeHaan's body. 3. Emma Stone personally wrote Gwen's graduation speech.